Lesson 5, remember professional ethics. When political leaders set a negative example, professional commitments to just practice become more important. It is hard to subvert a rule of law state without lawyers, or to hold show trials without judges. Authoritarians need obedient civil servants, and concentration camp directors seek businessmen interested in cheap labor. So here, I want it to be clear here, I think on one hand, it's recognizing that you shouldn't align your business or be in line with a business that aligns with this type of authoritarian rule. But I think also on the consumer end, the responsibility here is to know which companies are supporting this type of leadership. So I think it's the responsibility of us as individuals to do a little bit of homework, do a little bit of the work here to figure out who is aligning with this administration. And in the case of the Trump regime, I think a very clear example, there's a lot actually. You have the tech oligarchs that kissed the ring very, very publicly and showered him with these gifts and trophies and gold, whatever, and sat in on that cringy meeting. Zuckerberg being like, how much should I tell them I'm donating, right? Like all of those guys. And for that reason, I am avoiding their companies. Similarly, though, great example would be the companies that are providing resources to ICE. And so that looked like, and this has been a moment where I've been pleasantly surprised with the reporting and the sort of civic actors that have highlighted this and made it apparent that we should not align with companies that are doing, we shouldn't support companies that are supporting these actions, right? And so there were rental car companies involved in that, even kind of like rental trucks, like a U-Haul or Budget. Don't go look into it. I can't remember exactly which one was helping. But then even, a bigger, more gray area topic here has been like the companies who aren't preventing ICE from conducting their operations like out of their parking lots, right? Even if they're not engaging, doing the ICE operations, but using a Target parking lot to meet and discuss the strategies or tactics or whatever, or Home Depot, right? Those were the things, and we saw a lot of people speaking up about that. So that is exactly what needs to happen. And I think people need to, and for sure in this circumstance, any of these things that are clearly crossing lines need to be, that's boycott those companies, right? I personally, this is Amazon, deleted that account, canceled my subscription, deleted that account, no longer use it, no longer making any purchases through Amazon. The big tech companies, I'm still, locked into a contract with my Apple phone, but will not be renewing, and I'm going to go with an alternative. The social media companies associated, right? Like distancing from them and make them feel that. I deleted social media accounts. Now I'm kind of in this gray area though, because it's on those platforms that I think I would like to provide resources and information to people. So anyway, but to get into it more here on the fifth lesson here, remember professional ethics. Before the Second World War, a man named Hans Frank was Hitler's personal lawyer. After Germany invaded Poland in 1939, Frank became the Governor General of occupied Poland, a German colony where millions of Jews and other Polish citizens were murdered. I noted here this is, Trump has famously had his personal lawyers elevated to various positions throughout both of his terms in office. Currently, I was thinking of Todd Blanche, but this has been other people as well. He also, his personal lawyer brought in his personal lawyer to try to prosecute Letitia James and Comey for those very clearly politically motivated attacks on those individuals. That one didn't work out. But point here being, the authoritarian regimes, they need obedient civil servants. They need to subvert the rule of law. They're going to need lawyers. And to hold show trials, they need judges. And so he has elevated his supporters, his personal lawyers, right, his allies, to positions in these domains. So that's very obvious. The man Hitler chose to oversee the annexation of Austria, Arthur Seyss-Inquart, was a lawyer who later ran the occupation of the Netherlands. Lawyers were vastly overrepresented among the commanders of the Einsatzgruppen, the special task forces who carried out the mass murder of Jews, Gypsies, Polish elites, communists, the handicapped, and others. If lawyers had followed the norm of no execution without trial, if doctors had accepted the rule of no surgery without consent, if businessmen had endorsed the prohibition of slavery, if bureaucrats had refused to handle paperwork involving murder, then the Nazi regime would have been much harder pressed to carry out the atrocities by which we remember it. Professions can create forms of ethical conversation that are impossible between a lonely individual and a distant government. Professional ethics must guide us precisely when we are told that the situation is exceptional. Then there is no such thing as just following orders. If members of the professions confuse their specific ethics with the emotions of the moment, however, they can find themselves saying and doing things that they might previously have thought unimaginable. And I just want to reiterate the importance of this in terms of the individual's kind of the moments that you're most likely to have that opportunity to stand up, the opportunity to resist. It's usually going to be in a workplace setting, particularly for those vocations, those institutions that are so critical to maintaining democracy. And again, the just following orders doesn't only apply to the military or the police, right? That is an everyday thing, right? I try my best. I don't accept that's just the way that it is, or, this is just how it works. Those are unacceptable explanations or rationale for doing any kind of work.